Good for you.
when it comes, but it's fairly close to the beginning.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Next year, put up more. Okay.
By the way, we talked to the enterprise people today. You can make it, but we're basically going to keep moving forward.
Okay.
And they want us to
Got back
write
to
a
the
letter
streets.
of interest because they'd like to start
Literally just got back to the
different vendors like shut
traffic was bad.
So I'm okay signing for it.
Yeah.
It's just like,
So I had to miss it.
I just want to make sure we're pretty serious on it. We're going to be
So,
doing the budget process.
so I
Is that
gave them
okay?
one today.
I'm just so I
And this is, you know, after the May meeting, this is the,
I saw the state revenues
the
are way up,
agenda.
which I don't know that
I'm not
necessarily
sure,
means much
but
for
like-
us because yeah, I just
Are you sure it's okay?
no, not tonight. Oh wait, Cabinet starts at noon.
tomorrow the change that we
Before. Oh. Okay.
So this is kind of the broad picture right now. Right now, it's good.
So should I tell them how we're just kidding? We don't have any.
Still have, well, I think we could, you know, we just, I think $156,000, yeah, take it out of, about $1 million of cover next year. I just have to take it into the multi-year.
But it's a multi-year.
Yeah, so I have to get it into the multi-year for the out years.
So would you be okay if I continue this conversation,
Yeah.
or should I put it
No, I
to
think they
rest?
have to because otherwise it makes sense.
We're going to be on an operating on an emergency basis.
Right. Where am I going to get the money to buy a bus for this? But I don't have
So revenue reduction, that means their enhancement.
No, that means the reduction. So this is what we're getting. Total LCFF, the supplemental consultation ed
That's what we're getting.
fees. And these are the things that are going to reduce the revenue that,
So basically, we're going to have 1 million to work with. That's clear.
you know, after the May revise, my case,
Okay, let me get to work on it.
talk to the people that you know this.
I don't have a lot of time, but I'll get on
Go
it.
talk to the folks that you know.
Well, they do now. Well, they're getting close to getting.
Yeah, so it looks like tomorrow cabinet starts at noon.
Yeah, that's true.
this time, I would like to reconvene the regular board meeting. Clerk of the board will again call roll.
Solis?
Present.
Segura?
Present.
Pike?
Here.
Hall?
Present?
Tarantino?
Here.
Janney?
Here.
Irizarry?
Present.
We will now hold a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Mr. Irizarry to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Place your hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
The board met in closed session, proceeding following issues. 1. Student suspended expulsions. Education Code 48918. Students are identified by ID number. Number 2. Public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer. Government Code Section 54957. Number 3, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 956.9. Number 4, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1, oh wait, that's the wrong one. Number 4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of Code Section 54956.9. And number 5, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. The board to moved by Pike, seconded by Solis, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the expulsion of one student with the vote. Yes. Pike, yes. Solis, yes. Moved by Solis, seconded by Segura, to accept the administrative recommendation to approve the suspended expulsion of one student. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, no. Moved by Solis, seconded by Pike, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the suspended expulsion of one student with the vote of Hall, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Pike, seconded by Solis, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation with the vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Solis, seconded by Segura, to accept the administrative hearing panel's recommendation to approve the suspended expulsion of one student with the vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, no. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the request for leave of absence for one certificated employee with the vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Solis, to approve the request for leave of absence for one certificated employee with the vote of Hall, yes. Pike, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the April 23rd, 2018 regular board meeting, with the change that the board will hear the CBOC report before the planning and construction discussion items are considered. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the agenda by Solis, seconded by Pike. Would you call for the vote, please?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura? Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We will now have an update from our superintendent, Dr. Janney.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting. We are actually very grateful that you choose to participate in this process, in this open process of our Board of Trustees, conducting district business in a transparent manner. So this is an explicit example of putting the we back in Sweetwater. So here's what's been happening in Sweetwater lately. Thank you. Here's what's been happening in Sweetwater lately. Last weekend, the 25th annual Adelante Mujer Conference was held at Eastlake Middle. About 500 students participated, and this past Saturday was the 22nd annual Adelante Latino Conference at UCSD. Another 500 students attended. Both conferences are actually organized by volunteers, administrators, teachers, classified staff who are really passionate about continuing the work. And in total, like I said, a little over 1,000 boys and girls attended. This is one of those amazing Sweetwater traditions that have made a huge difference in the lives of our students every single year for over 20 years. In fact, the keynote for the Adelante Mujer Conference was Martha Juarez, and she is a Sioux High alumna and valedictorian of Sioux High of 1995, and who is now the executive director of the Sioux High Scholarship Foundation. So she heads up the organization for Sioux High itself, and they raise millions of dollars every year to give to their students. And so she's the executive director of that foundation. And the keynote for the Adelante Latino Conference was Superior Court Judge Enrique Camarena, who also was an alumnus of Sweetwater at Southwest High School, class of 1991. So that's pretty amazing that these people, these keynote speakers, have come back and to give back to the community. And so I just wanted everyone to know that. This past weekend also was the second annual Quadcopter Challenge that was held at Sioux High. Events like these cannot be successful without dedicated staff, as we know. So Leo Ulloa, he's the STEAM coordinator. He helps to organize the whole thing. But again, schools don't get there on their own. They get there with their teacher coaches. Sometimes they're teachers, sometimes they're other staff on site. But here's who they represent. Wayne Lee from Bonita Vista High, Joel Faust, Eastlake High, Ivan Rubio and Angel Martinez from Hilltop High, Joseph Amaro from Montgomery High, Julio Avasan from Olympian, Chuck Betts, Otay Ranch, Catherine Villaquiet, I think it's pronounced that way, Palomar, Jesus Arias from Southwest, and David Cobian Sioux High. So this year's winners, our second annual, was actually pretty fun to watch. I'm sure you can see some YouTube videos. I think Mr. Ulloa placed them on our website maybe. First place Eastlake High, second place Sioux High, and third place Olympian. Congratulations to all. We also want to thank our external partners that help us with this, like NavAir, General Atomics, Boeing engineers, Palomar and Southwestern Community College, the Geotech Center, and the Action Drone Company. It's a local company. There's no other district in the county doing this kind of event, and so we're pretty lucky that our staff is willing to put the time in for the students. So go Sweetwater. All right. I'm sure also everyone in our community heard about Desiree Davila Linden, right? 2018 Boston Marathon women's winner. You heard it in the news. An alumna of Hilltop High School, class of 2001, and the first woman to win the Boston Marathon in 33 years. 33 years. You probably heard the story in the news. This marathon was nothing short of historic for a number of reasons. First of all, it was the 5-year anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombing. It took place in torrential downpour with chilling winds up to 30 miles per hour. Okay, just running 26 miles alone is enough, but in the rain and against the wind is pretty amazing. It also marked a historic collaboration between American women leading the pack to make sure one of them broke the tape for USA. So here's what she did. Desiree offered to block, early on in the race, the wind of another runner from USA because she didn't think that she didn't feel like she was going to win, like she had it in her, right? So she decided that she was going to offer to block the wind for one of the other USA runners. And a quote from her says, "We all want to win, but at the end of the day, it wasn't just about the individual, it was about getting that win for America." So we are so proud of the sports womanship, there's sportsmanship, it's the sports womanship that Hilltop alumna Desiree Davila Linden demonstrated on that day. So I think we should just give her a round of applause, don't you? So I want to kind of continue on that theme. So the idea of helping someone when we aren't feeling our best is my message for tonight. So one of our belief statements that our board approved, that a lot of the stakeholders put together, if you look up on the poster up there, reads this: we believe relationships and collaboration matter. So running a marathon takes a lot of endurance and persistence. And at any part of the run, one can get discouraged and give up. It could be related to fatigue, either mental fatigue or physical fatigue, or a host of all other challenges that make finishing that race difficult. So here's the connection. We have about 6 weeks left until the end of the 2017-18 school year. Everyone is tired. Everyone. Students, staff, parents, everyone's tired. It's understandable that teaching and learning is hard. And having a strong finish takes endurance and persistence and a little help from our friends. Right? So one way to increase our own energy is to help to offer someone else help. Right? To offer help to someone else, like Desiree did in the horrible conditions of that running 26.2 miles. So a particular PhD, a sports psychologist and assistant professor at the University of Utah, says it this way: your brain releases endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin when you help somebody. And these are all great hormones to have when we are tired or discouraged. Endorphins have like a morphine-like way of reducing pain, and dopamine increases motivation and focus, and serotonin boosts our mood. So there's also the potential hit of oxytocin, right? Your brain releases oxytocin when you are bonding with another person. And so this psychologist says that this bond reminds us that we are not alone in our suffering. And if it helps you to focus on the bigger picture, not just how bad I feel or you feel in the moment. So that's one way we can help get to the finish line. Here's another way. It involves audience participation. All right, so be ready. There you go. Once a teacher, always a teacher. So listen to this question. Think back to the time when you first joined the district. What you most about this district? I want you to turn to one of your neighbors and share your example right now, please. Take a moment. What inspired you most when you first joined the district?
I think the fact that everybody because I have never been in this country.
Oh yeah, because your kids went somewhere else.
Oh, my kids went to Hilltop, yeah. That's
See, I was
correct.
moving back when my oldest was. Yeah, but that
Remember to give equal time to each other. Take about a minute each person and make sure both people share.
was always happy.
You can't leave till you share. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah,
Okay. All right, so here's the second question. One more question. I want you to turn to a different partner, your other neighbor, and then please share a specific story when you felt most proud to be a part of, work for, or associated with our district, right? A time when you felt most proud to be a part of, work for, or associated with the Sweetwater Union High School District. Turn to your other neighbor and share that story, please.
But I'm always proud because we're doing some great things. I mean, I'm always amazed about what people do every day. There's something. I know, I don't care.
This kind of thing is...
I just thought, Karen, this is getting down to that, like us, that we
Yep.
can go, now it's time for me.
Okay, you've got about 30 seconds left, please. 30 seconds. Okay, so in closing, psychologists say that anything that helps you feel more connected to other people will boost your mood and your performance. That might mean cheering on a colleague or a friend at school or a family member or a neighbor who's struggling, or just giving somebody a high five. So in these final 6 weeks of our year, let's remember that we are stronger and better together. So let's support and reach out to our colleagues and our friends. Thank you for the opportunity to continue to serve and support each one of you. Thank you.
Great talk, Dr. Janney. Thank you. And now we'll hear from our student board member, Isaiah Irizarry.
Thank you. So the first thing I want to go over is addressing something that a member of the public, I believe it was Ms. Cheers, brought up a couple of weeks ago, and I apologize for not addressing this in a more timely manner, but one of her concerns was about prom and grad night and about the expenses covered for students. So I think the main situation that happens with prom and grad night is those expenses aren't necessarily covered by the ASB, although they are managed by the ASB like every other financial transaction within campus. They're actually, the fundraising actually done by class presidents and class officers. So usually the price is just basically set at whatever the class presidents and the class officers can raise so that they can pay for prom and grad night expenses. And if the class officers don't do a strong job of doing that, and usually that causes the prices to hike. So that's where you kind of see these variations in prices. Depends on how much the class officers are able to raise, because if not, then they're going to have to raise prices and have more student contribution. And that's just simply the main reason why prom and grad night can be so expensive sometimes. Just it's often difficult to raise that money. So I just want to address that, to have any concerns that you might have had over that. It's almost entirely done, like the fundraising is done by the class officers, and that's how they're able to purchase the tickets and stuff like that. And it also depends on the venue, the transportation that they choose. Some do their prom in expensive hotels that are, costly to book, and their grad nights can be at Disneyland. They had this weird thing where now they're, they're forcing or only offering packages to provide to one certain park for higher prices. So a lot of it also has to do with whoever is in charge of those venues as well, and that could also be an explanation for a rise in prices. Sorry about that. Outside of that, another thing that I would also like to report on was the, of course, like the increase in student engagement throughout the district, especially in the light of the tragedy in Parkland, Florida. The walkouts and other activities have been mostly successful without any sort of incident whatsoever. Each school has done it in their own separate ways, but the positive trend I'm seeing is how in every school it was a mainly student-led thing that had administrative and faculty support, but it wasn't something that was entirely done by faculty, and it wasn't something that was entirely done by students, and it was simply something that was done in a constructive manner that was available to both sides. One thing I noticed that some schools are doing, and one thing that hopefully I'd like to expand in my school as well, is registering, sorry about that, and pre-registering students to vote, especially because this year is an election year. We are electing a new governor, and it's incredibly important for our citizens and our students to be knowledgeable of the issues in order to use the vote, because in this country the ballot box can really be your biggest weapon, because every single vote matters and can really help determine what the future of this country is for years to come. And the final thing I did want to talk about was kind of a highlight of my weekend. So over the past 3-4 days I've been in the Bay Area, because we had the Bonita Speech and Debate team had the state championships. So the competitors who qualified through the state qualifying tournaments, including myself, attend the state championship tournament, which is one of the most prestigious in the entire state. Bonita had a really strong performance this year. We placed 12th out of all schools in California, and this is our highest placing in the history of our school. we've had several competitors actually place highly in their events. In duo interpretation, 2 competitors, Camilo Tejas and Diego de la Rosa, placed 3rd. In expository speaking, which is a kind of a presentation where you use boards, a freshman, Ursula Neuner, placed 6th. And in original prose and poetry, Tanner Hamilton placed 5th. And in congressional debates, Simon Valancourt placed 5th. And those are just some of the highlights of this weekend. And the unfortunate part about that is that I've had to miss about 3 days of school. The 10-hour drive didn't help. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I'm going to have to excuse myself early from this meeting because I have a lot of homework and studying to catch up on. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will have D1. We'll conduct a public hearing to respond to Sweetwater Union High School District's initial proposals to the California School Employees Association, CSEA, Chapter 258, the exclusive representative of the Operations Support Services Bargaining Unit, Chapter 471, the exclusive representative of the Office Technical and Business Services Bargaining Representative, and Chapter 731, the exclusive representative of the Paraprofessional Bargaining Unit, and adopt the initial proposals from the district to the 3 CSEA bargaining units. I will now open the public hearing. Are there any speakers?
I have no speakers, Madam President.
The public hearing is now closed.
There is one correction to the backup item for this document. On the proposal on page 2 under Article 19, the dollar amounts were missing from the original document. It should read that the dollar amounts were increased from $350 to $600 to $500 to $900. So you have a copy of that on your dais, and it's available for the public in the back of the room. So this is the proposal that you will be voting on.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
The public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion for the board item D1? Or do I have any discussion? We don't discuss it. We just.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Pike to approve D1. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Segura. Oh, would you call for the vote?
That was Mr. Solis.
Mr. Solis. That's Nick Solis. It was Mr. Segura that did the second. So it's Pike made the motion, Segura made the second.
No, Mr. Solis made the second.
Mr. Solis made the second. I thought
The real Mr. Solis.
I heard it come out of Nick's. I was. All right, call for the vote, please.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
This is the point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes to do so. Remember, the board cannot legally take action or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but we'll refer the matter to the superintendent's office for review and possibly bring it back at a future meeting, but we will have the superintendent report if we refer it to her. Thank you for your cooperation. And if people are here to speak on the same item, if we have a large number of people speaking on the same item, we may limit the time to 2 minutes each in order to be able to move the meeting along. So we respectfully ask your indulgence in that, but clerk of the board, do we have anybody for the open communication?
Yes, ma'am. Mary Murphy?
Good evening, esteemed board and notable participants. My name is Mary Murphy Claggett, and I am a resource teacher at National City Adult School. I am fortunate to be concluding my 30th year of employment with our great district in the Division of Adult Education. Our challenges are very different from those of 712. And prior to the 2016-2017 school year, our administrators often came with a knowledge base and instructional level that simply did not align with our needs. 2 years ago, thanks to you, we, who are the hands-on teachers, for the first time had an opportunity to have input in vetting the candidates for our director and one of our principals. Our chosen director, Dr. Ryan Burke, has proved himself a remarkable leader, and Mr. Kevin Patrick, as principal, arrived with the knowledge of adult education instruction and has made him an invaluable part of our team in 1 short year. It seems now that Mr. Patrick will no longer work for our district, and the loss of him is already being felt in our program. In addition, we fear that the policy will shift back to one of absorbing administrators who have only worked 712 and are coming to the end of their careers. Adult learners differ from younger students. They are people who are not required to attend school, but are here because they genuinely want to learn. They and those who teach them deserve leaders with experience in the field. We as a division are aware that at the end of the 2018-19 school year, the retirement of 2 board-appointed principals within our division is imminent, leaving us with 1 principal for 4 schools. Distinguished members of the board, please do not return to a policy that appoints administrators who are unqualified and, yes, uninvested in adult education. Adult education demands leaders who understand its challenges and rewards, professionals who are able to guide teachers in making the efforts of their students' success. This is Mr. Patrick's forte. If budget restraints don't allow you to retain him, offer him 1 year of a leave of absence, allowing him to return to his present proven leadership role in our division when board-appointed principals retire. And lastly, continue to give those of us who are there every day an opportunity to have a say in who will be our guides. At this time, may I please have the members of the audience who are here in support of Kevin Patrick stand up or raise your hand. Thank you.
Debbie O'Brien.
Good evening. My name is Debbie O'Brien, and I'm a counselor here in the Sweetwater School District. I've been here for 26 years, and I have in that time worked with many principals, and it's been a pleasure this year and last year to work with Kevin Patrick. He genuinely puts students first, and that is something that hasn't always been there. And not only does he do that, he has a sign in his office when you first walk in, and it's a circle, and it says, "Because things have always been done that way." And I think a lot of times in school districts, we can get stuck in that mindset. We can think to ourselves, well, that's the way we always did it, so let's keep doing it that way. And Mr. Patrick doesn't do things that way. He always listens when we come in and we have brand new ideas and innovation. He's willing to embark in that change. He's not just willing to listen to us, he's willing to actually roll up his sleeves, help us out in those different matters. He didn't come to the adult school to retire. He came to the adult school to work. And that's exactly what he's been doing for the last 2 years. I have a personal example when I went into his office to speak with him regarding graduation for our students and the requirements that we were currently asking students to achieve. And not only did he listen to me, because ours are a little bit antiquated, and we are right now in the process of trying to come up with some new graduation requirements that will help our students, our adult learners, get farther faster. He not only listened to that, he headed the committee as the administrator. He took that on as a brand new principal. And it's been a very difficult thing because everybody has different opinions about what should happen. but I just want to say that it's been amazing that he was able to take that under consideration and help us get there. I'd like to just read a couple of the other things that he's accomplished. He added a give and take library at National City where students can come and they can get books. He was a big support of the National City Collaborative Family Resource Center. He allowed San Diego Dance Theater to have trolley dances. The VAPA students were able to come and perform. He reinstated an ASB at National City Adult, which we haven't had in a very long time. He created social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. He gets on our roof. He rolls up his sleeves because we've got a facility that's kind of breaking down a little bit, and he gets in there and works. If we have a teacher not show up, he will go in and cover a class. He covers custodians. He will do any of these types of things that he needs to do. And I know my time's coming to an end. Thank you.
Linda Carver.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm Linda Carver. I teach computer networking at National City Adult School. And I ask you to please reinstate Kevin Patrick. I have a long bullet list, single-spaced, of his accomplishments in just 1 year. And I'm not going to read from it because I want to make sure that you each have a copy of this. But I want you to know this is not a complete list. He's a stellar principal. It's just unprecedented, the things that he's done. But the most important reason that we need him is because he's a leader with vision, just as you are, so that you know the importance of that. And without that, we're going to be adrift. We need a full-time principal. Adult school is special. It's a little bit different than 7-12. Okay, the adults need someone to model for them what it means to be a successful adult. And Kevin does this every day. You can see this. He's among them, with them during breaks, and you can see that he inspires them. It's in their eyes, it's in the way that they smile when he's there. And they need that example because they work hard at the jobs that they're in, low-paying jobs that are dead-end jobs a lot of times. And then they take the time to come to school and learn, and they need that encouragement. And Kevin encourages us too, the teachers and the staff. But this isn't really everything. You might have seen the billboards with announcing jobs at NASCO. They're all over town now. Well, Kevin anticipated that, and he got us grant money for a welding program. So now we have students who are going to be ready and qualified for these jobs. And he is just getting started, right? We need these industry relationships in order to survive. So I ask that you make this investment in adult education. These are our friends, our neighbors, your constituents. These are people who are important to us in our community, that are our students. And we need to support them in what they do. So please help them be productive members of the community. They're working very hard. And nobody could fill Kevin Patrick's shoes, but much less to have a part-time principal. We would lose all of this momentum. We're starting something that was going to be really great. And with Kevin as our principal, I really think that you're going to see some results in people getting jobs, people being successful in the community. And so I ask that you help with this and join us in helping these folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
G.A. Valdez.
Thank you for this opportunity. I am Gustavo Valdez. I have been with the district for 40 years. This is my 40th year. I am partly a product of Sweetwater. When I was 15, I came to learn English, and here I am. I have had the pleasure of working with many good principals, but never, not once, with a principal such as Kevin Patrick someone of this great magnitude. And I'm not here to say that the principals we had before were bad or that these ones coming are going to be bad. Nothing like that. All I ask you is that please focus on Kevin's accomplishments in his very brief time he's been with us. Look at his passion for education and his sincere desire to serve our school and our district. Here we're talking about a man of tremendous potential and with endeavors to take us into higher standards. Please, I beg you, pardon me, to focus on the best interests of our community, our school, our students, and our district before your own inclinations. Think about that, please. Dr. Jenny and distinguished board members, we, the faculty, the staff, students, and community members, appeal to you because the action taken against Mr. Patrick, it just doesn't make sense to us. We implore that you look at other options to reinstate Mr. Kevin Patrick to his role back to our school. He's a great team player, and we need people such as him. I have brought along letters for each one of you. If I may, I will bring them to and also with me signatures representing faculty, students, staff members, and community members. There's over 500 signatures. If this means anything to you, we really would love to have this man on board. I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lydia Palomi? Lydia? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lydia Palomino. I'm one of the students of the Adult Center National City, and I'm taking computer applications under Ms. Riel, which is a very honor to me to have it as instructor, and the principal, Mr. Patrick. I want to share a little story. It's not going to be very long. I'm a full-time worker. I work nights, and this class that I'm taking has been helping me a lot at work. Looking to improve my computer skills, which is a need for my full-time job, attending the Adult Center was a great option for my busy, challenging personal schedule. I called the National City Adult Center to find out about the registration for computer classes. The secretary told me, you must come to the campus from this time on these dates. There is a limited space, and this is the last week. I came to the campus the very last day of enrollment. The secretary told me to go to the computer class and enroll there and then come back to pay. I was very enthusiastic to get into the program, but I found a challenge. I didn't know how to use the computer in the computer program that they had that day to enroll. So there was somebody there helping all the students, and another student pointed me who was that person. So I waited for my turn until he had time to come to me and help me and walk me over the program. I had a lot of questions, and he answered all my questions as well. That was a very great opportunity to me to see that for adult people, there was somebody there as a tutor helping. So he helped me, and he made my time easier and gave me the opportunity to engage in my next step. One day during the class, the instructor says, Ms. Riel, that the principal is around the school doing something, and he might come to the class. He was very busy. He never made it to the class. But on December of 2017, the teacher said the principal was wearing a Santa costume, and he was around the campus with other students. People were singing, laughing that evening. I wanted to meet this person for the first time, but I was busy as other students doing my assignments in the computer. I told the teacher, can you call him to the class? She did. The principal came to the class to greet everybody as a group. I wanted to see through the costume who this person was. To my surprise, it was Mr. Patrick, the person who helped me to enroll that day. I was really surprised. He took pictures with the class, and he listened to everybody as friends. Mr. Patrick has a very good attitude toward people, and his attitude make great performance and engage people to do things. I'm very honored to say thank you to this man because he has great qualities as a leader. Mr. Patrick is the person why my class is here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Melanie Earls.
Good evening, board and community members. Tonight marks the third time our staff has come before you. And to use a baseball metaphor, 3 strikes and you're out. At the November board meeting, we explained the lack of discipline. And on March 14th, the first of several walkouts, when hordes of students walked out, we felt unsafe, but we were more frightened for students' safety. However, this was merely a culmination of what happens when there is no discipline. So our staff wasn't surprised at all. As you read through the letters being presented to you, we hope you feel our deep desperation and frustration as I read some excerpts to you. I respectfully appeal to the board to, at long last, take action. Despite the interventions that have been put in place to improve the leadership of Ms. Delgado, Hilltop Middle has not seen any improvement. In fact, we have endured a continued deterioration of our school and fear that as plans are beginning to take shape for the next school year, we are being set up for disaster. Time management during staff meetings, following through, making decisions have all been questioned for the last 4 years. Ms. Delgado cannot be trusted. Students run the school, not the principal. As a special educator, I have asked for discipline guidelines in order to develop behavior intervention plans for some students with real issues in the area of deportment. There has never been a response to these questions. As it turns out, we tend to send home the students who are victims of bullying. I've heard it said from this management team that we cannot control what 500 students do, so he, the victim, will just have to go home. The students who are doing the bullying get to stay. In the spring of 2017-18, a questionnaire among teachers was brought to my attention in regards to our current principal and how she does her job. This was not just some sign-off I took lightly, so I did not take my vote lightly. In my hope that you remove Ms. Delgado, I ask that you take note of the following grievances. She has created divisions among staff members that have resulted in ever-present feelings of suspicion and distrust. She failed to adequately plan for 2 national student walkout days. She waited to hire people she and her constituents already knew of from outside the district, whom she hired and eventually gave several resource periods to, and did not interview other tenured teachers from our site or the district who applied. She gives chosen people 1/6 or an additional prep period, resource period, or whatever she decides to call it, without offering it to all staff members. Because in past years, after each department planned out a well-structured master schedule, she, behind closed doors, switched everything around and inequitably distributed resource periods. She has at best been a passive witness to staff members who have actively campaigned to end the FLAGS program. She has allowed accusations that the award-winning FLAGS program is rooted in segregationist ideology and has done nothing to stop the dissemination of misinformation amongst staff members. She has deliberately taken every possible opportunity to create barriers for FLAGS program, to calendar events, hold parent meetings, have field trips, host special events, and recruit students. We sign the vote of no confidence because more often than not, her decisions do not involve students first. They involve backdoor politics and inequitable favoritism. The atmosphere at Hilltop Middle is now one of whispers between staff members. The unrest, bickering, lack of discipline, lack of admin support, etc., affect my job as an IA and also my granddaughter, who is now on the Flags program. I am sad she will not leave Hilltop Middle with the same kind of accepted, loved, cared for feeling that my children did. Currently, staffing is an issue. We have had a large number of teachers leave our school in the last 4 years, not to mention the fact that currently 4 of our teachers are on leave. This has created a situation in which many of our neediest students, special needs and English learners, have subs in 1, 2, or even 3 of their classes. On the same topic, we currently have 11 teachers in induction and 3 new teachers as of second semester that will be evaluated. For the probationary teacher evaluation deadline of March the 14th, there were several new teachers that did not have their evaluations completed and 2 that were skipped. Her deadlines, as set forth by our contract, were not being met. Being a new teacher, I would expect my principal or one of the assistant principals to come observe my teaching practices a few times a semester and offer insight on what they liked and provide feedback on ways to improve my teaching. In my 2 probationary years, this formal observation has occurred only once. My colleagues did more observations than my principal. My induction advisor did more observations than my principal. Staff have expressed to Ms. Delgado the need for newer teachers as well as departments with newer curriculums to have several years in the same position in order to improve and grow as professionals. Her master schedule ignores this need. While she claims her schedule is just one idea, she has since presented the schedule to some staff, stating that people should not get too comfortable in their current positions and questioning if some teachers' best practices would hold up if they had more challenging students. Her proposed master schedule does not have the best interest of Hilltop Middle stakeholders in mind. Rather, it is focused on creating chaos and punishing those who have spoken out against her. Thank you.
Roxanne Michaud? Roxanne Michaud?
Hi. Thank you for your time and listening to us for the 3rd time. I don't have much to say, except I would like you to consider my voice an additional letter to the letters that are being presented to you. I did try and write a letter several times, but every time I did, it turned into a novel. There are many, 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 many concerns and issues that we face. Not much has changed, and even the changes have not proven to be of benefit to our school. I love Hilltop Middle School. I graduated from there. It is there that I got the interest to become a nurse. And I am very, very, very proud to be working in this district because my brothers and I graduated from this district. My 2 sons graduated from this district, and my daughter will be heading into high school next year from this district. So I just wanted to say that we don't come before you for the 3rd time to attack an individual, not a particular individual, but to plea for a change of leadership. Hilltop Middle School is sick. I'm a nurse, and that's how I view Hilltop Middle School. We need some strong leadership, someone with competent management who can heal these wounds that we have, the fissures between staff members and faculty. And we are pleading with you, please help us find this new leadership. The events of March 14th was simply an external magnification of the routine chaos and poor judgment at Hilltop Middle School under the current principal. The difference is you received as a board many pictures and videos from outside people. That is something we cannot do inside the school. However, we see that kind of disruption and chaos on a routine basis. I don't want to say any more because I don't want to take up your time. I just want to say, please, I hope you read each letter and take the time, and I appreciate that you will do that.
Thank you.
Christopher Shelton?
Good evening. I am a special education teacher at Montgomery Middle School, and part of my role as a special education teacher, I feel that I am the voice for my students, that advocate for them. And for the last 18 years, my school site has been using a reading program called Accelerated Reader. The last 3 years I've been at this site, I have watched my students be denied access to these materials, which are 20% of their English grade. I have watched them repeatedly fail and struggle. I've been told that as a special education teacher, I can't modify this reading goal as part of their IEP, even though I know that I can. I've filed reports and talked with administration and didn't get any traction. So on February 22nd, I compiled enough data to show that this was discriminatory grading, and I filed a report. Over the 5 semesters I collected data, the lowest failure rate for students with learning disabilities for the AR program was 63.4%. The highest one semester was 84%. These are our students that have the greatest need. This program was not effective. When I filed that report, thankfully, Friday I found out that we can no longer use this program for next school year. However, it was not removed entirely for this school year. The principal recommended that the students with learning disabilities be assigned a 0-point goal. But for the rest of the students, our EL students, our Gen Ed students who also struggled, this was not removed, even though we were told the funding source that we are using is not available. We should not be using this program as curriculum. And for me, I am now enduring harassment from 2 English teachers. They are spreading vicious lies at my site. They are filing complaints against me, even though the reports I filed, the district said, yes, this was right. You can't use this program in the manner you are. And I'm very concerned that the protections entitled to me under whistleblower, under board policy, under ed code are not being provided. These teachers are slandering me. They're ruining my reputation. And this was a Herculean task to get this changed. And I was the only teacher standing up, filing these reports, talking to administration on a daily basis. And thankfully, my students that are on my caseload don't have to endure this any longer, starting next school year. And I just want to leave the board with a couple of questions. Who was overseeing this? Who was ensuring that these Title I funds were actually being spent the way they were? Because for next school year, they can't be spent on this. Our LCAP goals. Who's ensuring that the library is actually providing these materials and not finding students and denying them access? Who's ensuring that our staff who report these violations, are being protected from other staff members? These are serious concerns, and I speak for these students who have no voice, who have learning disabilities, who are 11 to 14 years old. This is something they should not be facing. They should not have to go to school and face this discrimination within our grading. So I thank the board for your time.
Thank you.
Jesus Gonzalez.
Good evening. My name is Jesus Gonzalez. I'm a senior at Castle Park High School, and we're some of the Castle Park Advanced Placement Spanish students. Today we arrived to you with a purpose to find a solution to our concerns about the case of our teacher, Mr. Hector Vega, from Castle Park High School. We are conscious that the district have a strong reason to remove Mr. Vega from his classroom. However, as the students, we believe that we deserve some answers about what is being accused of, or at least to know how much time he will be absent. We come here because in this case, the students are the ones being affected from Mr. Vega's suspension. this time of the year when the advanced placement tests are just 2 weeks away and the grades from his class were the same as the time he left. As students, we receive the same grade that from the last progress report, but many of us have different grades already from the past one, from the previous one. We talked to our principal, and she said that if we have some problems with that, we can talk to her, and she can fix our grades. We consider this action as a respectable act because she knows that if the people in charge of the AP exam know that she can change or modify our grades just like that, it can affect us when we take the actual exam. But yet our principal is not fluently speaking Spanish, so any student can come up to her and tell her, hey, I got an A, so why don't you just give me the A? You know, that's our main problem here. Mr. Vega not only teaches the AP Spanish language, but also the AP literature class and AP Spanish 3 and 4. It is easy to say that the students from his class have a passing rate on the AP exams of 88%, which is of the highest AP scores at the school. We have the honor to say that Mr. Vega prepares his students with a variety of methods which are easier for students to study. One of his methods is a study guide created by himself which covers all the material from the class focused on the preparation of the AP test. The preparation received from Mr. Vega often increases the student's opportunity to obtain a desirable grade on the AP test. This year, the students could not receive this type of study. Actually, we had not time to even start with the practice of the test, and of course, the reason that is actual circumstance. We are aware that we cannot communicate with our teacher, but we believe that we should not be restricted from our teacher's knowledge with the justification that he is not able to come to class. Therefore, we ask for your help to communicate with him and obtain the study guide for the AP literature class, as well as needed materials for the AP language class, and the grades that will appear in our final report card. To conclude, it is never too much to say that our teacher always takes his classes seriously and focuses simply on preparing his students in the best way possible to take and succeed in the class and AP exams. We hope to receive your help in this situation and return our teacher. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sylvia Perez.
Good evening, Board. My name is Sylvia Perez. I have a daughter that is in 7th grade at Hilltop Middle School. I am here to discuss an important issue concerning my concern regarding Ms. Delgado and her leadership at that school. I am very concerned with my daughter's safety, number one. I'm also concerned because as a parent, and this is not my first child, I have dealt in different educational levels. I have 2 adult children that have gone on to college and are very successful. So I know that communication amongst administration and parents is very important. We had an issue with my daughter Marie, her backpack being searched by Ms. Delgado by herself with 2 other girls in a bathroom in the morning. My daughter came to me that afternoon and said, please, Mama, don't get mad, but Ms. Delgado searched my backpack. I asked what the reason was. She said, I don't know. We were in the bathroom. We were getting ready to go to class, first period. She came in. She said that she needed to search our backpacks. She said that somebody had reported that there was a smell of smoke. Me being a parent and knowing what kids are capable of, but also knowing my daughter, I knew that this was something that was not an appropriate thing. I asked her, did you get taken to the office? She said no. I asked her, did she ask another adult to be present while your backpacks were being searched? She said no. I also asked her if she was, if she asked. She said no. So that was an issue. I called Ms. Delgado. This was 2 weeks prior to Wednesday the 14th. I never received a call. I called Ms. Delgado 4 times to follow up, never received a phone call, left messages, and that was that. When the Wednesday the 14th came along, during nutrition break, I start getting text messages from my daughter saying that there are over 400 to 500 students walking off campus. I asked her what was going on. She said everybody is out on, the students are out on the parking lot area, and there's some dumb students, her words, dumb students running in the street. Cars are honking. I called Miss Delgado, left a message that afternoon. Nothing happened. I called her on Thursday. I called her on Friday. I finally called the district on Friday morning, spoke to Miss Duggan. Miss Duggan told me that I needed to contact Miss Delgado before I could put in a complaint. When that happened, I told her how many times I had called Miss Delgado and her lack of returning calls. So Miss Duggan was the one that called her, left a message asking for her to contact me. This was Friday, right before break. I never received a call. She was out of the country for those 2 weeks break. I did not receive a call till 2 weeks after school resumed from Miss Delgado, and that was because I called Miss Duggan back and asked her what was going on. And when Miss Delgado called me, she proceeded, we discussed the 14th, she proceeded to blame 3 special eds or special need kids in instigating the walkout. I'm here to tell you that I'm angry that this is going on. I'm angry as a parent that she tells me that 3 students, special needs students, are able to instigate a walkout where she had to open the gates, and my daughter saw the AP open the other gate, so all these students are going out to the street. I want to know what this board's plans are, because I am telling you right now, even though I have a bunch of wonderful teachers in flags because my daughter is in flags, and she has an opportunity to learn a lot. But I'm telling you right now that if Miss Delgado stays as principal, my child is not attending Sweetwater Union High School district at all.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts.
Stuart Payne.
Good evening, Superintendent, President, and Board. Or I guess I should have said President, Superintendent, and Board to be correct. You know, I came here to speak on one issue, but I just can't help. So anyway, Ms. Janea and Superintendent, I want to let you guys know I'm going to send you an email tonight on a topic we've been discussing. I think you'll find it informational. Kevin Patrick, you know, I don't know Kevin Patrick. I've never seen the man. But if everything I heard about him at this podium tonight is true, it sounds like he should be teaching other principals how to be principals. It would be negligent if I didn't get up here and talk about my favorite school, Olympian. Dr. Janney, what I think you should do is inform these principals and vice principals that when they are at the school site and supervising events or not supervising events, that they represent you. And they represent this board as well. And when you have administrators who have guests on their campus and they don't even engage them to speak, it really smacks everything that you said in the beginning of the board meeting in the face. So I would encourage you to get that word out. I would also like, as I hear a lot of teachers from Hilltop Middle have exposed themselves. The gentleman that spoke about the students at Montgomery Middle has exposed himself. And the track coach at Olympian that I've talked about has exposed himself. And I can tell you, the track coach probably will not tell you this, but I'm going to tell you right now that because he filed a complaint, he's been retaliated against. And somebody needs to stop that behavior. The last thing, and this is what I really came here to talk about, is Bond Oversight Committee. Prior to your guys arriving, we had a Bond Oversight Committee that was appointed by the board, and they were appointing their spouses, their fraternity brothers, their sorority sisters, and the people that were appointed to the Bond Oversight Committee were loyal to the board, and they wouldn't deliver to them any information that would cause them to be concerned. If you change the way you are currently doing your Bond Oversight Committee, you're asking for trouble. Right now, the Bond Oversight Committee is loyal to the community, to the students, and to the funds, as well as to the district. That's the way it needs to stay. We don't need Bond Oversight committee members appointed by the board. If you do that, I will not. I'm probably not going to support your bond anyway, but I will actively oppose your bond. Thank you.
Nick Marinovich.
Good evening, President Hall, members of the board, Superintendent Janney. I'll be quick. I know you have a long meeting. I have my report coming up next, but just a couple of quick things I wanted to tell you all, and I'm going to try again my style of pretending like I'm at Starbucks or at the board meeting, because I think it makes me feel more communicative. But what I learned this week, or particularly today with Superintendent Janney, is that you're really lucky. And she is an excellent communicator. She's pretty, I would say, you'd be surprised, she's a tough cookie in the sense of she is, when she has to say her piece, she does, and it has the trust. When she says it, I know I have her word, and that's a good thing. It's hard to talk over that. The second thing is, and it relates to the first in terms of the communication, is the district and their staff. You know, I used to work at the county where they had their own little staff and people to help filter the information. When you're a school district member, man, you've got to really trust the Aguirres of the world, and Karen Michael, and the superintendent, because you don't have any filter. I mean, any people to give you independent advice. The bond committee is kind of like an exception to the rule. The final thing, in my travels sort of doing assistance with other bond oversight committees around the state, and it's just for your information, I can tell you either a blessing or a curse depending on how you want to use it. But this county, and particularly the media and the scrutiny that school districts have, particularly with the Voice of San Diego, but the other media as well, is much more so in other counties and other school districts. And you also, a lot of school districts don't have the kind of community involvement that you see here when I hear the Kathleen Cheers or the Mattie Adatos or this many people showing up at a board meeting. And so as we move forward with the bond measure and just things in general, it's something to keep in mind, like in your personal life, your biggest asset can also be your biggest liability. And I think the community you have and you know, the passion that Kathleen and myself and people have for the students of this district are important to consider. So I just wanted to give you those three thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
mic on. Clerk of the board, will you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, the following items have been pulled. F3 by Mr. Tarantino, F8 by staff, G2 by Mr. Segura, M1 by Mr. Pike and the public, M4 by Mr. Tarantino, and Q2 by staff.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Mr. Solis and a second from Mr. Segura. Would you please call for the vote?
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis? Tarantino?
Tarantino Solis? Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, so we have now F3.
Pulled by Mr.
Madam
Tarantino.
President, this was pulled by me. I have a couple of things. At our last meeting, the condition of the Granger PE field was brought to our attention, and Dr. Aghetti said that there was going to be a subsequent visitation and along with Mr. Solis. And I was wondering if via Friday update we can receive what was the outcome of that visit and what was found, and if there is an issue, if there's any plans on how to remediate that, that would be appreciated. And the second thing, which wasn't on my original list, but after listening to members of the public, if in a Friday update we could receive some more information regarding the accelerated reader program that Mr. Shelton mentioned, in terms of what it is, why it's being discontinued. He alluded to the fact that there was no more funding to support it. But what troubled me the most was that he's being intimidated by members of staff, and that's something that I don't think that any of us would tolerate. So if we could have a Friday update with that, that would be appreciated as well. That's all I have, Madam President.
Can I clarify with you, Mr. Tarantino?
Sure.
You're wanting a Friday update on the reading program?
Correct.
Okay, not the harassment. The personnel issues, we would refer to the superintendent to.
Yes, that's what I was implying.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification, Madam President.
All right, thanks. Anyone else have an F3?
Yes, I do.
All right.
I would first like to have a little update, Dr. Geary, on the rat issues for Bonita. I think the public wants to know, and just give us an update of how things are going so that they know we're on top of it and we haven't forgotten about it. The second thing is that I would like to find out what's going on with the school bus drivers. We've had some issues. I understand that a lot of them calling sick on Mondays, a lot of them calling sick on Fridays, and we can't get qualified drivers. And I've asked why, and they said, well, we don't have anybody trained. And so I'd like to know, number one, who is training our school bus drivers? And number two, in the last 2 years, how many bus drivers has that person trained? Because if not, then maybe we need to get somebody that can train bus drivers on a regular basis. Maybe we need to do something. But I don't, I think something needs to be done. And so those are the two things that I have for F3. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Item F8, we have a, wait a minute, let me look up.
Yes.
Yes, we have a report from staff on the local control accountability plan goal 4 to develop coherent and transparent systems. Dr. Janney, do you want to introduce your group? Thank you.
So as the board knows, and community members, if you've been to any of our board meetings, that once a month we provide an update on one of our LCAP goals. And we do this for purposes of keeping the board informed in the community, but also to keep us updated as far as the annual renewal of the LCAP. And so the purpose of it is to give you an update on what's happened since the last time we updated you on LCAP goal number 4 and where we're headed into next year. And so we have 4 people, all of the people associated with mostly the operations side of the house. So Mr. Della Cansada, Dr. Glover, Ms. Michael, and Dr. Geary. Looks like Mr. Della Cansada is up first.
Good evening, President Hall, Superintendent Janney, Board of Trustees. We're here, as Dr. Janney had indicated, to present the LCAP Goal 4. LCAP Goal 4 is basically to develop coherent and transparent systems for operation excellence to support each of our students' success. One of the things that allows us to achieve that is our systemic process related to review, report, reach out, and revise. We continually do that to ensure that we're getting communication from all stakeholders and to ensure that our goals are being met. Some of the underlying premises that we utilize in determining how we're doing on LCAP 4, especially in the area of transparent systems and operations excellence, is basically we will implement systems that are efficient, effective, and customer focused to meet the needs of each of our students, staff, and families. We also streamline our operation processes within and among departments. That's one of the key things, is that collaboration amongst departments to ensure that we have equitable access to support and resources that contribute to each of our students' successes. We will provide the necessary training and development necessary to have qualified staff, and we work through our human resources department in achieving this. And finally, we continue to develop an assessment framework for operations and operations excellence that allows us to achieve LCAP 4 goals. And so since the last time we reported, here are some of the major systems that have been implemented since then. The Lawson system, version 10, S3, is basically now is up and running. We have some minor reports that we're basically adjusting. However, we've mitigated the high risk of losing years of data in the human resources area. So now we have a system that's recoverable and that's in operation, and we're now proceeding with phase 2. Adjoin, an online application management system, has basically been introduced to help align and streamline our ability to acquire candidates for various positions within the district. Mobile Up application is basically a collaboration piece of software that's being piloted at 2 high schools and 2 middle schools and the district office. And what this collaboration software will do is help us and families, parents, students actually aggregate information from their various schools, and it'll be displayed on their smartphones. Student education support system is in its last legs of implementation. Basically, it's 99% complete. We have one major legacy system, TrueCourse, which will be moving over to the primary data center at Scale Matrix, and that's scheduled for this Thursday. And then we will deem that particular project implemented. And finally, School Dude, which is a facilities and maintenance management system, was introduced to help efficiently streamline our work orders in the facilities area. So one of the other areas that we'd, So in order to present to you ongoing committees and programs that we have, Dr. Gulliver will present the human resources side.
Good evening, President Hall, Dr. Janney, members of the board. In the area of human resources, we are focusing predominantly on recruiting right now. While we're finishing this year, we're working towards next year. We've made multiple visits to universities in our area, attended the San Diego County Office joint job search fair with meeting over 400 candidates. In addition, we're recruiting our own, as you know, the RISE program. We've already set the date, Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018. You'll find me on San Diego State recruiting our compact scholars to become RISE teachers in our area. So we're very proud of the work being accomplished there. In addition, we continue to maintain our programs of staff development. We have the Classified Management Training Series, which we're finishing up, where we've worked with a third of our classified management team in an academy where they've learned things regarding building positive relationships, supervision, coaching, evaluation, contract management, to name a few, as well as educational technology and legal issues facing them. So we're very proud of our graduates that are coming to fruition in mid-May. Finally, March 19th, we hosted all of the school site secretaries, they're the principal secretaries as well as director secretaries, to give them training in the area of time management, dealing with difficult people, organizing your structure of your day, to where we responded to a need of theirs to provide them opportunity to receive training to help them support our students and our staffs in our community. And the other thing, once again, with a zero budget, we brought it in right on cost with zero cost through the use of Viva and also our staff personnel. So we're very proud of that, as well as we're going to give you some information. You'll have a further report from Dr. Carber's office, but our induction program continues to move forward. We're very proud of the fact that one of our great recruiting tools is that if you come to Sweetwater and you're a brand new teacher, your induction program is free. Just so you know, when I say that, people stop. It's like, we have free induction. They stop, they turn, they step over to the table. Then we tell them about more things that we do here at Sweetwater. So it's an outstanding program because not only is it free, it's putting our teachers in the best position to be successful for our students. So we're proud of their work, and as you can see, we have 123 candidates on track to be completed. And then finally, using our Hanover staff survey, we continue to look at ways to help support ourselves. That's why we're doing trainings, things like the opportunity to work with your peers, having resources for your job, recognition for what you do, and then finally the opportunity to share with our administrators some leadership. That's why you've seen us implement the classified advisory committees at all of our sites, as well as one here at the district office. Then finally, if you look at that, 84% of our employees say they're satisfied with being a Sweetwater employee, and of course 78% say we're headed in the right direction. So we're making positive gains. There's always plenty left to do, but we're making those steps.
Thank you.
Now in the area of finance, Karen Michael.
I would be happy to slow down. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Janney, President Hall. My section of this presentation is to update you on what we have been doing in the business area and the finance area with some of our ongoing and also some of our new initiatives that we brought forward. So we've talked, I think, a little bit earlier in previous presentations about our commitment to doing one-to-one training with our school sites. And as you probably know, our business department is structured into 4 teams of an analyst, an accounting technician, and an accountant. And they all have assigned schools and departments. And so they are currently out working with departments and school sites with on their 18-19 budgets, on staffing for next year, and helping them go through their position control responsibilities. And also they're very much involved in making sure that the school sites understand that they are their contact people. That is their team that's working personally with them, and that would be willing to come out at any request. We have also done some group training with our school sites. We just completed 2 weeks ago 2 mornings of online PAR training. We have a number of new school secretaries, and it's also a refresher course for some of the secretaries that have been in their positions for a while. So we spent 2 mornings walking them through a refresher course of the online PAR training, and then took their concerns and the concerns of the finance department as to what kinds of difficulties they were encountering and how we could alleviate those difficulties and help them resolve their problems. I think they felt that was very valuable. Yes.
Can you tell everyone what a PAR?
Oh, certainly. thank you. So it's a personnel action request, and this district has an online system, so it is electronic, and its request is usually initiated by the CIDR department, and it routes through an approval process. Usually it's a budget approval process, basically, so it will route to the finance department. It will route to a secondary approver if it's a program where it's managed by a secondary individual, and it routes then to usually HR and payroll. So there's a lot of nuances about the system, a lot of constraints that you can only use individual action requests for specific purposes, and that's some of the confusion that lied with the school sites. And so I think that the 4 hours that we did for 2 days in a row of training significantly helped that issue. We also have been working on some business system enhancements. I think that we discussed the last time about improved security, so we are vetting all the individuals' assignments and accesses to all the different budgets, and creating a password protocol, which had not been in place before. So that is almost done. We're just vetting a few more records, and then we will be putting that in place. I have asked for enhanced site reports, not necessarily for the district office, because we have tools that can create reports that are best suited for our needs, but what would the school sites like to see that would better help them look at their budgets and manage their budgets. So we're in the process of getting some suggestions from school sites so that we can then in turn talk to our consultant about creating those. We're also in the process of creating an accounts receivable module on the system, which will age our accounts receivable and give us reports as to allowing us to track our revenue more clearly. We've also had initial conversations about a contracts module, in that would be very similar to the position control, the PAR module that I spoke about a little bit earlier. The goal of this is to electronically at some point route contracts through an approval process, so that all of the approvers that are in place feel that their comments and their changes are all incorporated into the final board item that you receive for your consideration. And finally, we've been working with Dr. Aguirre and the School Dude organization to facilitate a work order upload. Since it is an individual system, the expenses for work orders will have to be uploaded into the business system. We've been working with Dr. Aguirre and, as I said, those contacts to improve that work order process. So a couple of really important things here that I wanted to update you on. So school services actually was in the district last week conducting interviews for the study that we're doing for all of the departments that you see listed there, to improve operational efficiency and do an organizational review. We have been the last 2 months submitting documentation through a secure portal for them. They were actually out here, and they were very thorough in their interviews. We had employees from every department. We had administrators from school sites. We had school secretaries. Anybody that that we touch as a customer, we want to know how are we doing. And so they were very, very thorough, and so we are looking forward to receiving their report probably in about 6 to 8 weeks that we can share with you, and looking forward to some of their suggestions. The Audit and Finance Subcommittee, the major accomplishment that we've been able to move forward with at their request is the special focus audit that has been completed. It is in draft form, and we are having discussions with the audit firm with respect to, I believe there was 4 findings, and so we will be also sharing that with the subcommittee at a later date. And the fraud hotline is well underway. Our internal audit department is working with the company to put together perhaps a pilot of some of the capabilities that it has. So we're moving forward with that as well. And of course, our M1 is always improving, and as you well know, and we're very proud of Ms. Travers' work in that respect. And last but not least, the financial highlights. So we again this year have received positive certifications for both our first and second interims, and our financial audit received an unmodified opinion, which is one of the highest standards that you can meet. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Aguirre for facilities.
Trustees and Dr. Janney. I'll try to make this brief. A lot of this is actually covered under the M1 on a fairly regular basis. So, first, I wanted to touch base on the FIT reports. These are the facility inspection tools that we are currently using as required by the state of California, so those are in compliance. We're working to actively update our deferred maintenance plan with our maintenance department. So again, it's something we want to maintain and update as we go through and work on different projects. We've been working very diligently to implement the maintenance management system, i.e. School Dude. That actually goes back to a study that was conducted by the County Office of Education a couple years ago, and they recommended we thoroughly vet a system for maintenance management system. So we looked at a number of them, and this is where we ultimately end up deciding upon. And it was truly a very involved process. It involved finance. It involved a good amount of training across different sites. Principals, assistant principals, plant operations supervisors, secretaries. I want to make sure I recognize the work of Mr. Ron Malone and the maintenance department, because it really has been a labor of love that's been going on since, I want to say, January. That really kind of was really in depth, and we're just now starting to see some of the benefits of that system. Site master plans, that's something else we're currently working on. So as you may have heard, we're working on updating our master plans. We're getting ready to go out to school sites to have conversations. Again, to make sure that we have a truly 360-degree view in these master plans, so we can have a comprehensive input process for our stakeholders. Joint Board of Trustees CBOC meetings, again, that's something that has occurred on a regular basis to ensure that there's that communication piece going on, and it continues both formally and informally, but I wanted to highlight the fact that these are occurring. HVAC phases 1, 2, and 3 are now complete. Again, just to stop and highlight that point, a couple years ago when we went out to the community, we heard very loudly that HVAC was a priority. And a couple of trustees were actually one particular meeting where we definitely heard that very loudly. And so this is to point out the fact that when we as a district receive feedback and input, we take it very seriously. And it actually helps shape decisions that we make with investments. And so we're happy to report that at this point we're pretty much done installing HVAC units in all of our classrooms. That's really a high level achievement, and I want to recognize the team over in planning and construction, particularly our project manager on that project, Ms. Quirk, because it was a very involved process, multiple campuses, and it's not complete. We need the paperwork, but the units themselves have been installed. And as you saw at Castle Park High School at the last board meeting, we've completed a gym bleacher project. It looks great. We also completed at Southwest High School, and again, those were initially brought to our attention based on concerns around safety and the fact that the previous bleachers were unsafe. So again, with re-emphasizing that point about listening to feedback and concerns we receive from our stakeholders. Want to provide a brief synopsis kind of image in terms of what our new system looks like. So you can see we can actually have real-time data and information around work orders received. So on this particular day, you can see how many new work orders we've received, how many are in progress, how many are closed, how many are awaiting parts on order, how many are completed. So again, this system allows us to have some real-time data to better support our students, our staff, and overall provide better customer service. And so with that, hand it over.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. And so some additional highlights. We did a technology survey back in December, and we had a staff validation and insight regarding a number of areas, and I just listed a few of them. Technologies used to enhance productivity and learning experience. We had 87% that indicated that they strongly agreed to that. From an SUSD network access perspective, 86% said it was easy to access. Technologies used allow for effective collaboration and data access. 85% actually strongly agreed with that. Wireless network has ample coverage, 69%. Technology problems are solved in a timely fashion, 68%. Although those scores are somewhat high, we focused on the 31-32% because we received a great deal of information that allowed us to focus on various problems and resolve them at the schools very quickly. Not to say they're all resolved. I think one of the key things is related to training staff before technology is rolled out. And another item is Infinite Campus and our ability to turn around solutions for that. But it was very validating. The input was great, and we're going to use that as a baseline. 84% indicated that technology is improving here. One of the things that we're starting to do now, and this is just a glimpse of network operation metrics, and just as we focus on operations excellence, we need data to validate what we're doing and to also prioritize what we're going to do. And in this chart here, you can see that at any given time, there's about 23 to 26,000 devices that are actually connected. Now keep in mind that next year when we introduce to 12th graders Lenovo laptops, we're going to actually establish a benchmark next year for concurrent client connections. What this allows us to do is actually help streamline those areas that are of issue, meaning gateways, capacity planning, and then basically try to stay ahead of problems that could possibly occur and deter the experience of students and teachers from a learning experience standpoint. So we want to stay ahead of that. And then also from a security perspective, I think what we want to do is actually from a metric standpoint is continue to focus our work on security and to try to stabilize the system. If you saw the reports back December 2016, those were triple digits in the indications of compromised hosts, which we can't, with our staffing, we can't physically do. And so with automation and with tools, if you'll notice there, 6 devices, 4. If you'll notice the types of the global blacklisting, the malware, the attackers, and then the prioritization from a security intelligence perspective helps us prioritize what we can focus on with the with the 3 or 4 resources that we have to monitor the entire district regarding security and cyber threats. And so we will continue to focus on these processes and methods that allow us to achieve the results in our LCAP 4 metrics. And that's the one thing that we underline is basically that linkage, alignment, and results, the operations excellence piece of it, with ongoing metrics from work order systems, IT ticketing systems, from our automation and monitoring, our firewalls, will help to promote operations excellence. And I would be remiss if I didn't indicate that the cabinet members, exceptional cabinet members here, if I may say, basically allow us to provide a very accurate report and progress going forward. And as reminded at our cabinet meetings, the old Nike statement, just do it. I think that was reinforced at the last couple of meetings. And so, and then also I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Dr. Perez, Elena Perez, who's basically coordinating this effort regarding LCAP 4 or LCAP reporting, and allows us to stay on track with that. And now, can we address any questions?
Would anybody like to? Let's start with Mr. Solis.
Sure, I do. For Dr. Aguirre, with regards to that I wrote it down. But the app for the dude, what was it? School dude.
The surfer dude.
Yeah.
It was a laid-back process.
Yeah, with all the kids having like phones and technology, are students able to access that and like say if they found a problem in the bathroom that they can like tap it and send the request, or not necessarily a request, but just the district is aware that there's an issue in one of the restrooms or whatnot.
Sounds a little familiar. At this point, given the need to establish kind of a workflow it was there was through conversations with the sites, we identified with them the staff members who would have the ability to upload items. So it's not necessarily open to anybody in general, but there's again kind of a workflow that exists. So physical plant operations supervisor, assistant principal, and school secretary. That's where we still kind of to be able to follow through the requests as any follow-up questions. It's not necessarily open at this point, but there is again an expectation that we can track the work orders that are submitted. So at this point, not really.
Okay. And with so Mr. De La Calzada, with regards to Infinite Campus, when I went to Sweetwater and Chula Vista High, a lot of the counselors were a little happier, but I'm still not there. But they actually showed me the old way on how to do get the students transcript. Thank you. Get the transcripts, and then they showed me the way they have to do it now. And so there's been some improvement. But how far along is that come now with the counselors being, like, I guess, to where they would like it to be?
Well, we're working on a task list that we prioritized with them, and so a major aspect of that was getting at least the transcript, the customized transcript out. We still have to do a number of tasks related to overrides, math specifically, and the social sciences, and so but we've made major strides in ELD and world language, which is in operation right now. The transcript, the integrity is probably 98% there. We continue to make progress. We still have a lot of work to do. I don't want to think that it's all okay. We still have a lot of work to do, but we're making major progress. And in comparison to the last time we were stabilizing transcripts, it took 5 years. We're going on, this is year 2. We're going on year 3, and hopefully this upcoming year is going to be a very positive one. So we're still focused on trying to get those last items that we need to address for the counselors and registrars.
And they had mentioned something about like real-time updates, because I know they were working on a couple of I think some students had applied to certain schools and to get I'm losing my words here, but scholarships and whatnot. But they were getting information. They were inputting it, but it wasn't updating. It had to go to wherever it had to go to, and then they had to upload it.
Yes, we're working with the Student Services Group to take a look at those processes to see how we can streamline those. There are some opportunities to adjust the process flow and our ability to update it more timely. Okay. And so we are aware of that, and we're working on that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Segura, do you have any questions? No? Mr. Pike? No. Mr. Tarantino?
In terms of the recruiting of new teachers, do you have an idea, is it too early right now to anticipate how many new teachers we'll be needing for the 18-19 school year?
On the natural through retirement, we have somewhere between 30 and 35. We seem to be getting a few more folks, so proactively, that's why we've doubled our recruitment. 2 days from now, I'll be back at UCSD recruiting more folks. So we're anticipating a spike in special education teachers. So at the San Diego County Office of Ed, when we did the all-day long recruit fair, we set up interviews with those folks for Monday, and we've already pre-signed 3 folks in a proactive way to fill those needs.
Okay, so that was going to be my follow-up question. In terms of the process, do we offer them a contract right then and there, or
no? Because just because you sound good, we wanted to bring them over. They had an interview process with teachers and principals. So we met them on Saturday, scheduled them for Monday, and by Monday afternoon, the ones that were truly stellar, by in the meantime doing a background check with their university supervisors, we signed those 3 right away.
Okay, all right. And to Mr. De La Calzada, in terms of the online registration for this next coming year, is there any improvement in terms of the household issue and the parents to be able to access the portal or whatever it's called to do the online registration? What state is that in right now?
It's in a manageable state, at least at this time. Some schools who are prepared for the onslaught of a number of parents, and they have a process flow of where to direct parents in that process, is working out well. Other schools that have new APs that are not familiar with the process for that specific school, we have to focus on assisting them. In terms of householding, even though the numbers are lower than last year, we still have a great deal of work to perform. One of the items that we're going to request our feeder schools is to provide us with that information 2 months earlier than we have requested that, so we can get the files out a lot earlier to the schools so that they can work on the householding and the links. But we're looking at the process flows. They're much better than last year, but we're going to have some issues, and so we've already extended after-hour support. We've scheduled them with the schools. We have a registration team that's been identified for each school. We have an application analyst that's allocated to that. And so even though the process has improved, but we still have a great deal to go in trying to improve to get it down to zero tolerance, if I will, no issues. So
Sounds like you've done an awful lot from last year, so thank you very much for that. In terms of if there are no changes in the household, will that information be automatically uploaded by the district into the site database? Because I think that was a problem last year.
we're considering the ramifications associated to policy and having to validate residency and some of the other items associated to that. So we are taking a look at that to see how we can more effectively make that operation more smoothly.
Okay, thank you. Nice job. That's all, Madam President.
All right, thank you. Let me look through here and see if I had a question. If you don't mind me taking 1 second, thanks. First of all, I just want to say thank you all. I mean, there's been a lot of work done, right? In the last, I'd say the last 3 years, a tremendous amount of work has come together, especially with the systems and the protocols, and knowing that we're really delving deep, like in the financial area, to really tune up what's been going on for a long time. So it's always good to tune it up, and I really want to thank you, Ms. Michael, and your staff for the efforts you're doing. I know there's never a dull moment when you're working in this type of an environment with the business sides of the house, because that never rests. It doesn't really get an Easter break or a summer break, because that's when your heaviest work gets done. So I want to thank you all and Mr. Dela Quezada for the work you've been doing. I know this is a task. I think one of my questions was around the transcript and the mapping of certain subjects and different things. Will that have to be renewed every year? Are you going to have to revisit every year, or is it as long as the curriculum stays static, or the courses are static from year to year, those courses don't have to be remapped?
Yes, we're learning a great deal, ma'am. We're working very closely with Teaching and Learning and Ms. Alvarez and her group, and Maria Stair. And so we're refining as we go through some of the standards and items that have been overlooked in the past years. And so that includes policy adjustments. And so we are working very closely with them. And again, as we go through this process, it is going to improve.
But you will have, I mean, I expect that as things come up, or this is a new subject or a new curriculum, you'll have to add that into the system, and there'll be work there. But as you've completed some of it, and some of that standard is just hopefully not going to have to be reinvented every year.
We hope not. Ms. Alvarez, would you like to comment on that?
Good evening, Ms. Hall, board members, Dr. Jen.
You had to be brought into the conversation.
Of course, I was just waiting. So in terms of our processes, which I think is one of the areas that we've really worked on, is making sure that we have a system in place to identify what are the needs, how do we resolve them and address them. We've aligned very carefully with Mr. De La Calzada and his team to ensure that that occurs. In terms of our policies, both our board policies and administrative regulations, we are also aligning those. We found that in many instances there are policies that contradict each other, And so we are looking at those and aligning all of those, and there's quite a few in terms of, for example, college courses, et cetera, and counting them or not counting them for weighted grades. So we're looking at that. Then there's the curriculum piece. The board adopted in 2015, in December, the Sweetwater graduation plan. And we've looked at that. We've completed modifications. We added some courses that students needed to complete. We have a different course in terms of requirements for mathematics starting next school year. And so I think there are always going to be certain elements that need to be addressed. The difference is now that we truly understand what implications, what happens in the system when we do have to change something. And so, you know, with the work that Troy Mason and Maria Esther Lizarraga, Nancy Nieto, David's team, Doris Easterly, with that work and the work of the counselors and truly identifying what those scopes and sequences are, we're able to address it in a much quicker and neater fashion.
Thank you. I'm just wanting to make sure are we going to need a whole another division to handle this from year to year, or because it sounded like it was a piece of work to be done, right? It was a tremendous task, and I know that we can't do that every year and then keep moving forward. So it sounds like you've got the bulk of the work has been done to identify what you need to do moving forward. You're working through that, and it will be the exception rather than the rule when you have another item to introduce to that process.
That is exactly correct.
Okay. Phew, got that right. All right. Thank you for that, and thank you for that hard work. I know it's hard, and I know that the system wasn't born to have a really, you know, the customizing of those transcripts is really not what was looked at when they brought that system to the district. So it's going to be timely, a lot of time probably still before you get to the point where the counselors are, you know, have something that's really mirrors what they used to have. And I think they understand the challenges, but you're working on it, and I'm sure we'll hear from them if it isn't moving along, you know, in a pace where they could feel like they're making progress to that.
As a couple of counselors said, even though it's not final, the transcript looks really sweet. So we're progressing on. So.
Okay, good. And that's important because that's just, I mean, we've been hearing that for a while, but since December or January was it when we had your last update, you really have progressed. So I want to recognize and thank you for that. And all the systems that we put in here are really moving along. So I thank you for that. The school dude one, I think the name of that just sounds so close to my heart because I love the beach. So I'm glad we're seeing a system that really will help us manage our work orders, and that principals will take advantage of getting what they need in there so that it can be tracked and then prioritized in a way that will help you, Dr. Aguirre and Mr. Malone, manage that from a central, you know, way from the central office. But it really will move things along quicker and kind of cut out some of the, I hope it works like it sounds it's going to work. So thank you all. I don't want to take any more of your time. I really appreciate everybody's work. Thank you. And your staff, of course. All right, so now we'll have a break. How's that? Can we take a break? Thanks. 10 minutes. We'll be back here at 8. No, I'd like to be back. I don't want to be back at 10. So how about 8:20? Maybe 8:22. Thanks. Stretch, move, stretch. know gypsies when I lived there. I only saw.
They could be pretty aggressive.
Oh yeah. Believe me, the kids would come up and they would beg and the mom would go over there. And I just would go back home and tell my friends and I went out swimming at this swimming pool outside of Florida.
Just like Gondor did it.
Hi. Superintendent, sir. Thank you for those photos. Otherwise, he'd never forgive his parents. He'd never forgive his parents. You know? He's a cutie. Is he a good baby? Really? They don't sleep. They don't sleep for a while. They're the cutest. Just wait till you're gonna have such fun. You're gonna have such fun. You really don't want his first more or less. I know. I don't think they're home. I don't think they have CNN. Well, you said that. Yeah, you said that.
You know, he's been.
You know how you look over and you go.
I use like it for a time.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Hey, you got that TV on that you like you're working or doing. It's just all day. It's like running soap opera.
It is a soap opera.
I don't.
We have no clue what's going on in the rest of the world because the news is dominated by Trump. I have no clue. I had no clue that there was that. There was something happened in Toronto. I saw it when I was swimming.
There was a bus.
A pedestrian. They ran over 19 people. Yeah, by a van. I had no idea.
There's a Waffle House, and then that George H.W. is like near there. He had sepsis.
I thought she was going to go before the war. Really? But I guess she was really sick and hit it. But he doesn't. I give him no more than 6 months.
Today it was like he was touch and go. He was in intensive care.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He had sepsis.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. This is like around 4 o'clock.
I was just going by the pictures on.
No, he's seriously.
Oh.
He's in intensive care.
I didn't know that.
The doctor, that Gupta guy said, and the other said,
Sanjay Gupta?
Like weeks as opposed to,
If he has sepsis and he's that old and he has other issues,
Parkinson.
Yeah.
So his immune is compromised. Think we're going to get out of here soon?
Yeah.
Hi, Gene. I'm good. Anna Maria, I love the way you say David's last name. That's awesome.
All right, we took a little extra time. It's time to come back to our meeting. And now we are on G2. Yeah, I got it. We're approving the Memorandum of Understanding between United States Soccer Foundation, U.S. Soccer Foundation, and the Sweetwater Union High School District for the After-School Education Safety Program, ACES, and the After-School Safety and Enrichment for Teens Program, assets, for the period of April 24th, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. That's item G2. And it was pulled by Mr. Segura.
Yes, Madam Chair. So my only question was if that was middle and high school, or if it was both, or
assets and ACES.
And then who would be able to participate in that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jenny. Is that Ms. Anna Maria Alvarado? Our esteemed Anna Maria Alvarado.
I just got married.
Alvarez. Alvarez.
Thank you. If I could only find Mr. Alvarado.
OMG. Good. OMG. That was funny.
I've been searching.
That guy's. He doesn't look very all right. All right, Anna Maria, please forgive me and please tell me. Go ahead.
I'm actually very thrilled by that name. Good evening. So this is the first time that we're using this foundation, the U.S. Soccer, and we will be providing two things through them. One is PD, and then the second is the curriculum. So they will actually be teaching both our agency personnel and our own staff that run programs to utilize the curriculum. Currently, we have the following schools: Chula Vista Middle, Montgomery Middle, Mar Vista Academy, Hilltop, National City Middle, Southwest Middle, San Isidro High School, Mar Vista, Castle Park, and Southwest High School. They have been formally submitted interest. However, we still have opportunity for other schools to come on board with this PD and curriculum opportunity.
Thank you. All right, and I thank you for answering that, because that was a question I had, was what schools, and so it's not really doing the instruction for students, it's doing it for staff, so the staff of the YMCA or the South Bay Community Services?
So whichever our agency provider is at that site, and the school district personnel that staff that site, they'll be trained in the use of the curriculum and in the use of the materials.
Are these classified and certificated?
Both.
Okay, thank you. All right, do I have a motion, or are there any more questions on that one? No? All right, do I have a motion to approve item G2?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Segura has made the motion. Mr. Solis has made the second to approve item G2. Please take the vote.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, so now we're on to M1.
We're going to do the CBOC report first.
Oh, yes, that's correct. We are. Thank you for that reminder. Mr. Marinovich.
President Hall, members of the board, Superintendent Janney. I wanted to kind of give you an update of how the meeting went, where we're going, and how we're feeling, and so on. You should have all received a PowerPoint presentation, which had several iterations, and it's been that's it. it's been a quite a work in progress. They had several revisions that a lot of thought went in the PowerPoint presentation and behind it, and a lot of interactions. And anyway, with that being said, a couple, basically 5 different things I'd like to go through. The first one is the meeting had a site tour of Southwest High School, and the site tour was, as we usually have, is productive. We got to see what went right, the new classrooms, both the modular and in the new, brand new permanent building. And the gym was quite impressive. And the school, you know, we've had schools where things were kind of trashy. This was not, showed pride of ownership. It certainly is an older school, typical of our older schools. One thing that was kind of a, I guess I don't want to overstate it, was a little bit startling. Part of the school has a septic tank system for sewage, which I was like, are you, I mean, I didn't, you know, I don't know much about septic tanks, but Member Munoz did. And I guess some of the bathrooms actually had to be shut down at the school related to it. Now, we give it to you as information. We're not health experts. Member Munoz has some professional experience in that area. So it's something I think maybe it was, maybe it's much ado about nothing, but I think the bond committee felt that there is ought to look at the issue. And Mr. Munoz, who's a civil engineer, has been corresponding with Dr. Aguirre. We'll just leave it at that for now. But the most important thing we got out of the site tour is how important it is fixing the infrastructure of these older schools. And you saw that bearing out in the bond survey. You know, the boring pipes and electrical are so important for our future students to make sure you can do all the other things you do around the school. So the second thing we dealt with in the committee was the bylaws. The bylaws were several months back we had submitted to the board. And in essence, we like to make sure, you know, if you got a new bond measure, don't have 2 bond committees, have 1. Don't have 2 duplicative. We should also look at, some of these are perfunctory matters, report on future expenditures, not just after you've spent the money, but if you think we're about ready to do something that either isn't or isn't a good thing, it's our duty to report. And we'd like to be involved in having some kind of audit review after 6 months. In terms of the projects, and then I'll get to the most important item in terms of the conduct of the meeting. Hilltop High Athletic is gearing up again. It's under the project status slide. It's slide 4. Again, the HVAC, we heard it's almost done. Great. Janaea's happy. Everybody's happy. And, you know, I sit in the audience here once in a while, and I see the students, you know, hey, you know, where do you go to school? Did you got new air conditioning? Yeah, it's so nice. It's really, man, you know, I tell you, that makes all this other stuff worthwhile, and it's just really good to hear. Final 2 items, and then with the closing remark is the member selection, which is the item that dominated the meeting. And there's been a lot of back and forth and communication on this matter. And originally, and I think the perception of the bond committee, to be perfectly honest, or either they thought or we felt or whatever reason, the impression that we had, and this was to change the selection process. I'll try to summarize it from it. Like a job selection process, like an independent evaluation committee with standard questions, separate rankings, going to the superintendents with the ranking of the applicants based upon qualifications, based upon their professional and educational experience, going to superintendent. Superintendent then goes to the board, basically takes an independent panel, goes to the board with the recommendations. And it creates a difference between the selection process and the decision makers, and somewhat of a wall between the two. And this would evolve, believe it or not, in his infinite wisdom. Ed Brand, under the old board, had the old system where the board members were more directly involved, as Stuart Payne mentioned in the member selection. So it evolved into the process we have now. And all I know is, I'll just tell you, sitting up here, the proof of the pudding is the quality of the people we've had on the committee since I've been chair. It's been stellar. These are really very experienced people who speak their mind, but they all want the best for the district. There's nobody running for anything that I've seen on these committees. There was one person that ran that was on, but basically nobody is in here other than for the students. There isn't any pro-Quinones sorority sisters on the CBOC. Not that that would happen again, but that's the way it was. And so the bottom line is there are 3 committee positions expiring in June. So it's kind of, time is of the essence. And we talked at the meeting, and in the simplest terms, I could say is the committee felt, well, don't change it. It seems to be working. And I'm sure staff maybe have some thoughts on how to make it better from your elected official perspective. But it's one of those things, there's some very, very strong feelings about it. But we heard today that no final decision has been reached. And I'm thinking, I've just thought of this, but I touched that earlier in the non-agenda public comment. Some things are best left up to the administrators to figure out what's in the best interest of the district. And I think this is one of them. And I think it's one of those things that it's so important to the bond committee to have accountability. And we're at the precipice of supporting a new bond measure. If that's, I think my sense, I'm telling you as a committee, and this, I think keeping the way it is just increases that of happening by a great degree. And the bottom line in the closing remarks, we gotta all work together. We all want the best for the district. We all understand who makes the decisions. That's you. We want to provide you our best advice. We want to be listened to. I mean, it's just natural for citizens. Paula, you used to sit in the audience. You know what it's like. It's frustrating when you feel like the board isn't listening to you, And I guess I'm preaching a bit, but I'm here to answer questions and to work with you as chair in the committee. And the committee liked the revised. This has gone through several of the PowerPoints, so they looked at it and said, you got the right tone in it. And that's very important, that it's a positive tone. So thank you. If you have any questions, I'm here.
So you're saying my Aunt Sally can't be on the committee?
What? Say that again?
I said, so my Aunt Sally can't be on the committee?
No. Yes. Well, no.
Are they famous?
Maybe they're famous too. They're infamous. I don't know. I don't know. I was alone, and I got nothing better to do in my retirement. Take pictures of chickens.
I saw that infamous chickens in it because I just got a call from somebody that was asking me the number for Southwest High School so they could get some of the eggs.
There you go.
And I said, okay. And then I got your memo.
Oh. No, it was good. No questions? Fantastic.
Yes, I have one speaker, Nick Marinovich. No speakers, pulled by Mr. Pike.
Yes, I just have one comment. Can we, maybe in a Friday update on page, I think it's 10, in there about Bonita Vista High School's football field? Maybe an update so the people know that we're still looking into it and where it's going to possibly be, what your ideas are. That's all.
Sorry, I don't have my mic on. Anyone else? Questions or comments on item 1? No? I'll entertain a motion to approve item N1.
So moved. I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Segura, second by Mr. Pike. Please call for the vote.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
M4, pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Yes, I had a question because, and this kind of relates to M4 and M5, because on the surface it looks like they're both.
You can't do that. No, just kidding.
I didn't get a bad look from Ms. Carbuccia, so.
M5 was already approved on consent.
Well, I know, but my point is, now you threw me off. My point is, on the surface, it looks like they're both dealing with tennis court resurfacing, and yet in M5, I noticed that that also included some demolition. So my question is, how does staff make a decision to submit bids simultaneously or together as opposed to separate?
So I'll address it generally, and then I'll ask Mr. Bradley, who worked on that project. So generally speaking, this project is a resurfacing project. The other project referenced, the one at Hilltop, is more in depth because it actually had to go to DSA, given some of the depths and some of the work that had to be done to shore up the hillside. So they were different in scope. Having said that, I'll ask Mr. Bradley to speak to the specifics of how we arrived at the particular bidding process for Chula Vista High School resurfacing.
President Hall, members of the board, Dr. Janney. Dr. Aguirre pretty much covered. I think the biggest difference was that the Hilltop High School project involves the removal of some existing fencing. As you may recall, it's very close to the northwest parking lot and a very steep slope. There are some deep footings associated with the fencing there that had to be engineered, had to be submitted to DSA, and required that a drill rig on a truck come in to drill those, and that work won't be required at Chula Vista. Chula Vista, while we do have an inspection process, it's not the formal DSA approval, it's an informal.
I'm not sure. The question about how do you make a decision if there are two similar projects, do you put them both in one bid? Do you separate out the bids? I think that was the other question.
I was also involved in those discussions, and there were a couple of issues. There was a desire to keep the budgets separate, and there was also the difference between the sort of degree of difficulty of the projects would mean that a larger pool of contractors would be able to bid on the Chula Vista project, but not the Hilltop one.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Madam President.
All right. Any other questions on that item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve item M4.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Solis and a second by Mr. Pike. Please call for the vote.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item M, that was M5?
M4.
M4. So now we're on Q2.
Yes, staff would recommend that you abstain from this item.
I'll abstain.
I'll move approval.
I'll
Q2.
second.
Moved by Tarantino, seconded by Pike. Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Hall?
Abstain.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 abstention.
Okey-doke. That's it, folks. I just wanted, we'll now say open board comments. Mr. Solis?
Just a quick one. Just wanted to thank the Sweetwater staff for putting on a wonderful celebration of life for Mrs. Charles on Saturday. It was fantastic. So I want to thank them for doing that. They did a wonderful job. That'll do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segura.
Let's see, what did I have here? Oh, yeah, so I was originally going to attend the event on Saturday, then I know the Adelante at UCSD, so, but we did have there was two IBW, one of the instructors and another member there who gave a presentation in one of the classrooms, so it went really well, and wish I could have been there to see that. Unfortunately, I had to go to a funeral service for another trade member, and then I know I saw that they actually went to one of your Southwest School High and did a presentation to the class there. The electricians did. I think they did another one somewhere, so I'm very proud of them for going out there and exposing the kids to the trades. And I know at our training center we took in 20 apprentices just 2 months ago or a month ago, and then there's so much work that we took in another class. I want to say at least 15, so that's at least 30 to 40 new apprentices that will be coming into the trade from there's a lot of apply from the South County, so trying to get that information. But it's important. I'm not sure what the other trades are doing, but I just know that we got a lot going on there in the outreach, and so that's all I got. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Pike?
Yeah, I just want to make one quick comment, and that's to thank Mr. Malone and his staff for going every Saturday to Bonita High and getting rid of our rodent problem. I know that was a big concern for a lot of the parents and stuff, and so I just wanted to publicly thank those people because I know they're working hard, and hopefully you'll be able to train the staff that's there now how to clean so that doesn't happen on a regular basis. Thank you.
Mr. Tarantino?
Well, tonight, Miss Alvarez got married, and I got adopted by the Solis family. So, how cool is that? Let's go out and celebrate. I'd like to also extend my thanks to the planning committees and the co-chairs of both the Adelante Mujer and the Adelante Latino functions. Those are events that have been part of our district for over 20 years. Adelante Mujer was 25 years, and I believe Adelante Latino is 22. And I think the nice thing about it, there's a lot of nice things about it, but the greatest thing is that students can see people who look like themselves in roles and in occupations, and I think that's huge, and that can't be replicated unless we do these kinds of things. So I'm pleased that the committees continue to do the work that they do, and I know it takes a lot of time, personal time, and a lot of planning and coordination with not only venues but also speakers and things like that. So nice job. I'd also like to thank the administration and staff of the Montgomery Adult School for their, I believe it was 16th annual Viva la Vida student conference. And again, this is an opportunity for the members of the adult school community to, learn about other things. And they always do a very nice job. And even though it was raining a little bit, it was a great event. And then congratulations to Eastlake High, Sweetwater High, and Olympian High, who placed first, second, and third, respectively, in the quadcopter challenge that was on Saturday. And again, a lot of conflicting responsibilities and wasn't able to get there, but I hope that they have a third annual. And that's all, President.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks to staff, and I did miss a few events while I was out of town, but I know that they were great ones. I really was sorry to miss the inaugural Parent Symposium. I was so excited that we were doing it locally. I know when I served on the DAC, there were parents that couldn't leave town to go to these conferences, and it was really something I personally felt would have been so well presented here locally. And to do it the way you guys did it, I just want to congratulate you and Miss Elena Elena Perez, yes, and her staff. I know they work hard over there. There's a lot of arrows flying in every direction sometimes for them, and I really appreciated that. I also wanted to thank the staff at Montgomery Adult for the great work they did with their conference. Every year it's spectacular. This year was no exception, and I believe they have a teacher, or one of their IT people is actually Employee of the Year this year at the district. I got his picture. but yeah, he's. Yeah, it's like. There you go. What's his name? No, this was a local. He said at the district. So. And then Jezebel. She was recognized by the state assembly for her work as a student. I don't know if she's employed there as well as a student worker or not, but she was recognized by the state assembly for her work in support of adult ed. So that was pretty amazing stuff that was happening there. I look forward to joining in the effort to have another safety forum with the city of IB and the surrounding schools, as well as the other areas in the South Bay, so that we can inform the public and schools and parents about what we do, the great work that our district does to keep kids safe. And I just want to thank everyone for their work and their interest and their ability to support students. You guys are amazing. So thank you. And with that, the meeting's adjourned.